Okay, so
Awesome.
I got it to work.
Make sure that you're unmuted. Yeah.
Okay, so I handed out for you Chumashim, relates to Tanakh. I'd like to look in what it says about Shabbos here in Parshas Vayekel. So this is in Exodus, in chapter 35. Let's take a look there.
It's always funny learning Mechael on its own because it's often paired with Pekudei, so like
Yeah.
in Shul. Like
So why are you learning that?
what?
You were learning it?
No, it's funny. I always find it interesting, like when you just learn one on its own, because they're like so often paired together because of the calendar.
Right. Because they're both very short shiot.
Right.
So
Yeah.
gives a little leeway.
Yeah.
And this is an example of what we spoke about before. You have the oral tradition, which is not something that was added on to the written tradition. It's something that's integral to understanding the written tradition. That really, this is going to, we'll see, the source of the prohibitions on Shabbos, but that even though it doesn't say explicitly any place, like in the Torah, what you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, except maybe for one malacha.
Fire.
But he's going to give us sort of like a background to the malachot, right? What we're talking about here are the 39 malachot. The kinds of forbidden work on Shabbos. So maybe I'll read a few in English. Moshe assembled the entire assembly of the children of Israel and said to them, "These are the things Hashem commanded to do them. On 6 days work may be done. On the seventh day shall be holy for you. A day of complete rest for Hashem. Whoever does work on it shall be put to death. You should not kindle fire in any of your dwellings on the Shabbos day." Okay, so first of all, we see that Shabbos is one of those things that a person, God forbid, could incur the death penalty, right? There's different kinds of ways of putting somebody to death. We don't need to go into that so much. We must have the Sanhedrin, right? Like in order to for the rabbis to have the authority to actually sentence somebody to death, there's very specific criteria how it's done. It has to have two witnesses. The person has to be warned. Don't light the cigarette. You know it's Shabbos. If you do that, you're not going to be put to death.
But they didn't die, right?
And what?
They didn't die, right?
He won't be put to death unless it's two witnesses.
And a warning.
They have to warn them, say, "Don't do that." He said, "Well, I'm going to do it anyway." So you know that's not allowed. I know. And then
Is it just one warning or it's multiple warnings?
I think it's just one warning.
Yeah, like one don't do it,
One
and then two
warning.
people are there.
They see that he's like desecrating Shabbos intentionally. So then they have obligation to report him to the Beis Din, to the court of law, and then they have like a trial for that person. But
Do we have like an historical account of how many people were actually put to death?
yeah, the Gemara does.
Yeah, because
say
it's very
that,
little. No, it's
That's what the Gemara says. That
Right.
famous teaching that if it was one in more than 7 years, another opinion, one in 70 years, then
Right.
it's like too violent a court. It's like
right,
Bloody.
not supposed to. We prefer not to do that.
right.
But in any case, they say that it had to be done in a very like caring way. They would also ask the person to do tshuva before it happened. They would also give them some wine to drink.
They would allow the person to do tshuva and then not kill them, or they
No,
would
no,
still,
you're supposed to do tshuva before.
and then they would still kill him.
Yeah,
Ah,
and this is part of the tshuva process for that person. And then he like goes to his reward. You know, he gets all the punishment in this world, and he's clean and go to
What
his
is
reward.
tshuva?
Tshuva, we'll be talking a lot about that, especially when we get to Yom Kippur. That's what it means to atone. To a person has to
What?
get atonement
For
for
Shabbat.
doing
There's a couple things
sins. A
before
person has to get
in the times of
has to say sorry. He has to
before.
commit not to do it again.
Oh,
Feel bad what he did, and that's a
repent.
process
Repentance, yeah.
ah,
of
It's very
returning
different
to
for
God. So, nevertheless, even though we don't have a death penalty, but if a person would, in any case, without the, even though that there is a possibility of the death penalty, but today we don't have that possibility till we have like a reinstitution of the Sanhedrin. But there's still another punishment. Doesn't mean the person won't get punished at all. He'll get punished from the heavens. Like Hashem punishes him, it's called korate. We also spoke about that last time, that
Right.
the person won't be coming back with the revival of the dead. He won't come back like in that body. That body has been sort of cut off
But his
from its
neshama
root,
will
cut
return.
off from the neshama. The neshama will maybe come back for another chance in other reincarnations, but that body is not, either it won't come back, or another definition of korate is that he won't live beyond the age 60. Young, dies like a young person.
It's so interesting about the bodies because I always wonder when Tichat Mitim happens, or like when our souls are meant to return to our bodies, but there have been we're Gilgulim of other people. So are their bodies going to return as well? Like, who's to say that my body is like the ultimate?
Right, we talked
Right.
about that a little bit last time.
Okay, so
Person will come back with all his bodies that brought a soul to perfection. They'll all come back.
it's so fascinating.
Okay, let's.
Siamese twins.
Now it does give one prohibition: you shall not kindle fire in any of your dwellings on the Shabbos day. Right, so that we know we're not allowed to light fire. That's on Shabbos, right? Yom Tov, we're also not allowed to light a fire, but we could transfer a fire.
yeah.
If you have a candle lit, you could transfer it on Yom Tov because we were allowed to cook on Yom Tov.
Right.
But on Shabbos, you can't even do that much, right? That's transferring fire. In all your dwellings, right? What about in the Beit HaMikdash, right? You're allowed to light the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash.
Right.
So you could, right? That's not your dwelling place. That's avodas. That's like the service for Hashem in the temple. Now look what it talks about now. Moses said to the entire assembly of the children of Israel, saying, "This is the word that Hashem has commanded, saying, take from yourselves a portion for Hashem. Everyone whose heart motivates him shall bring it as a gift for Hashem: gold, silver, copper, turquoise, purple, scarlet wool, linen, goat hair, red-dyed ram skins, tachish skins, acacia wood, oil for illumination, spices for the anointment of oil, the aromatic incense, shoam stones, stones for the settings for the ephod, the breastplate. Every wise-hearted person among you shall come, make everything that Hashem has commanded, the tabernacle, right, the Mishkan, its tents, cover, hooks, planks, bars, pillars, sockets, the ark, and its staves, to cover all the things, right, for the Beit HaMikdash. Right, so these are seemingly, like, if you would just like read this without knowing the oral tradition, you would say, what does one thing have to do with the other? No, you're telling me you're starting to talk about Shabbos. Now you're jumping to talk about what we need to gather together to construct the Mishkan, right? So,
But the Mishkan, like the Hilchot Shabbat, are created because of the work that was done for Mishkan, right?
so all of these kinds of work, these are the kinds of work that we learn is specifically forbidden on Shabbos. They were not allowed to make the Mishkan on Shabbos.
Right.
Even though you could light a fire, in the temple in order to do the avodas Hashem, in order to serve Hashem, to do the mitzvot. You could sacrifice an animal. You need to do that, right? To sacrifice an animal, Hashem commanded that. Even on Shabbos, and even we're going to do more sacrifices. We have the additional offerings on Shabbos. However, the construction of the Mishkan, which is the preparation, right, in order to get it ready, that we're not allowed to do on Shabbos, right? And from all of the works that went into making the Mishkan, which he sort of hinted at here what the things are, those are the very things that were forbidden to do on Shabbos. So take a look at this, sort of a listing of 39 malachot. And don't worry, we're not going to go into all of these things, but we can give us sort of like an overview, and we're going to go into some of the kinds of, we are going to be learning some of the malachot in more detail, but before we go into it, we have to like understand some basic concepts. Yeah, okay, we have the 39 malachot, which halacha really means a kind of action, a kind of like something that you do, and there's really two basic kinds that we could talk about. 39 malachot, which are the avot, right? Like, in another two parsha, we're going to have toledot, which means like these are the toledot, right? You have the avot, you have the toledot, we have the fathers, we have their descendants, right? So also here by these malachot, we're going to have 39 principal, like general prohibitions. From each of these, there can be a further breakdown of what's called toledot, which are offsprings of these. They're offsprings from there, but these are both malachot. Let's see. Let's maybe put it like this. Now, from the avot, we have the toledot, and here there's hundreds. Right? I cannot say how many there are. These are all going to be prohibited from the Torah.
Was it not 39 total for each avot, or is that not?
No, no.
I don't know why I thought I learned that.
No specific number. Could be some of these have very few, they're very specific, very few toledot.
I'm very curious, like, what's significant about the number 39?
Yeah, like
Because it's like a weird, it's like not 40, it's not whole, like Judaism loves tens. It's 39, it's not really like it's not a multiple of 18. It's
Well, maybe because we know we have like the 13 attributes of Rachamim,
okay.
and we have those are like three groupings of those
That's interesting.
in the Kabbalah.
Okay. Like I'm looking for the Kabbalistic.
So this is Gematria Tav. And there's also, these Avot and Toledot, which could be many, many of those. These are all something which is, what makes it a Toledah? It's something which is in some way similar. It has to have some kind of a similarity to it, either in the way it's done or in its the result, the outcome of doing it. These are all going to be from the Torah. Also, we have another
Rabbi, is
category.
It possible to maybe explain
What
like,
is Toledot?
like
Toledot means the offspring. You have like the fathers,
Avot.
like Avot are the fathers, the forefathers, which in this case, we're only using that term to mean the general overarching categories. The basic, the large, main categories, and then we have subcategories within there. Those subcategories where there are things that are connected to them because they're similar. They're similar. For example, one of the prohibitions that we have is cooking. Right? We're not allowed to cook on Shabbos. I will talk more about cooking before, but as an example, cooking on Shabbos. So, what is it that they use that for in the Beit HaMikdash, cooking? Well, probably they were cooking, right? They were either
Those
they had to
sacrifices.
cook the sacrifices to eat
Right.
them, right? There were sacrifices that were eaten in the Beit HaMikdash. There was also they would boil. They had to make bread. Bread was something that was part of the Mishkan, right? That's one opinion. That was, we know, where was the bread in the Mishkan?
In the oh my gosh, what's it called? The cabinets.
It's a special table, right? The
Yeah.
shulchan. There's a special
Shulchan.
table as you go in to the Mishkan itself. There, right away, like on the north side, there is the table, right? So you need to prepare those breads. You can't cook them on Shabbos, but they're supposed to be made before Shabbos. They were eaten on Shabbos, but they have to be cooked before Shabbos. That's part of the Mishkan, is to have those breads there. Another thing they used to cook in the Mishkan was to dye the fabrics, right? There's many curtains and clothing of the Kohanim, the curtains, the tapestries, those were all created with either linen or wool. Linen was not dyed, but wool was dyed, right? With here you have an example, right, of the techelis that you can see here. That's a blue dye. That's wool that's dyed with color blue. There's also red and purple also. That was really the purple and the blue really comes from the same shellfish.
So why doesn't
But there was also red, which is from a certain kind of a worm. So
That's
these were the different colors that they had on the clothing and also in the tapestries in the Mishkan.
But not for Tchelet. Tchelet, it was just blue or it was purple, red?
Techelis was one of the colors that was used.
Oh.
Like the ephod of the Kohen, he had like a robe, go like from his shoulders, his arms all the way down below the knees. That was wholly made of dyed wool dyed with the color of techelet. So,
But not specifically for like tzitzit. Like
tzitzis was
It's a
not really part of the
modern-
Mishkan.
right, it's
I'm
a
just
modern
saying, like,
concept. More modern.
it's not modern, but I mean,
Right.
that was also a use of the techelet, not in building the Mishkan.
Okay.
The techelet, the tzitzis is not part of the Mishkan.
Right, so I think that's what we were confused about. Like if you're allowed to have different colored tzitzit, like
All right, no, I'm just saying that our techelet that we have today is something that was also that color of wool dyed. It was also in the Mishkan. So they would maybe heat it up in order to dye the wool that they used in the Mishkan. So that's a kind of a cooking, right? And the baking the bread in order to put that on the table. That was also kind of cooking.
Don't some people believe that like we're allowed to wear the blue like tzitzit, and then some people don't? It's like
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Well, now I have the actual techelet. Some people say, well, it's not really like required yet. We're not sure if that's really the true.
they were able to scientifically
Mechael.
prove that it was the same
Yes.
hue. So I don't know. I think
There's a lot of evidence
Right.
that it was the original. Some people use from a squid. That's some Breslov people use from a squid. There was an opinion that maybe this is its techelis, but was lacking in many proofs that it's not very convincing that that's the real techelis. In any case, we see that cooking and also things that are toledot of those, whether the toledot of cooking, like if somebody would, like he has a candle and he wants to stick it on something, heat up the wax on the bottom of it. That would also be like a kind of heating up that wax. It's not really, even though he can't eat that, but it's changing the form of something through cooking. Right? They used to have old kind of light bulbs where when you turn it on, it causes like a metal filament. Remember that the tungsten would glow. That was also like connected to cooking. It's like, of course, or melting metal. Like, I guess if you melt metal, that's also like connect, that's like a tolada, like a derivative. Tolada means like a derivative of cooking. And there's also like another kind of a category, which are called like a gezerot. What is a gezerot? These are from the rabbis. Right? The rabbis made fences, like it's a fence, and this is supposed to prevent us from coming to cook. Here, what comes to mind that we'll be learning is the prohibition of wrapping up something that you want to keep warm on Shabbos, to wrap it up like in a blanket, or wrap up something like in and keeping it to keep it warm, because they're afraid that you might come to put something, wrap it up in hot coals.
Isn't
Like there was like,
right? Because
you have like a
pits in the
campfire,
ground.
right? After
Yeah.
when you finish your campfire, you have like a lot of coals on there. So if you want to keep something warm, you could like put like a potato inside there, right? And maybe it will keep it warm. It could cook it. But now when you want to take it out, so you're taking it out, you're causing those coals to stir them up. And when you stir up coals, so it makes a fire come up, right? As soon as you stir up coals, it's gonna make the fire come up again. That's lighting a fire. So you're not allowed to light a fire on Shabbos. You're not allowed to stir in coals on Shabbos. It's gonna make fire come up. It's gonna make the fire hotter. It's gonna make the fire spread to other wood. So that's why they said not only can you not bury something within hot coals, you also cannot wrap it up in blankets, or bury it in feathers, or bury it in something that's like surrounded on all sides to keep it warm. That's a gezerah. That's a fence from the rabbis that if you're allowed to bury it in something to keep it warm, you might come to do something which is forbidden on Shabbos. So that's an example of a rabbinical fence. You could see from this paper they handed out the malachot. So it's divided here into the first group, field work. These are all of the things that really go into making the bread that was put on the table, the shulchan in the Mishkan, right? Sowing, right? You're planting the seeds, plowing. You're burying them into the ground, and that's a plow. It works to soften up the ground so the seeds the roots can grow. Reaping means anytime when you disconnect something from the ground, right? And here it doesn't have to be something that's even in the ground. It could be like if you have like a flower pot on the ground and you pick it up. That's like you're disconnecting that flower pot from the ground. It's also considered to be disconnecting the thing from where it's growing. That's if it has a hole in the bottom. The flower pot has a hole in the bottom. If it's in the house, it could be allowed, but if it's like growing like in a flower pot on the ground, you can't pick it up. It's like you're disconnecting it from the place where it is on the ground. It gets a certain moisture from the ground. Gathering and binding. This is when you after you've cut all the wheat, now you're putting them together into bundles and sheaves that lets you to bring them to the place where you're going to do the next step, right? Which is called threshing. Threshing, that's something we learn a lot of malachot from that. What is threshing? When you see like grains of wheat that have still have their like covering on them, the what do they call it, the chaff?
Right.
Chaff, I guess, yeah, the chaff. right? That's like the little thin covering that goes on top of the wheat. So until you take that off, you can't really do anything with it. You cannot like make flour from it. So anytime that we take something out of its covering, then it's connected to this kind of malacha. For example, if you squeeze grapes to make wine, right? You're taking the juice out of the grape. It's like in a way taking the grain from its covering. It's like taking the juice from its what is contained in. So anytime you squeeze something, even if you have a sponge, and you squeeze water out of it, that also would be connected to this.
You're allowed to do a lemon, right?
A lemon would also be like taking juice out of the lemon.
I heard you're allowed to do if it's not on a solid thing.
So that's people say it's only when you take a liquid out of food. If you have a liquid out of a solid, then it's like this, it's like this. But if you take the liquid and it goes right into it from the solid into a solid, like onto a salad,
Right.
so then it would be allowed because it's
So
not
let's say
exactly
chicken,
like
you can't.
you're taking it from something different. You're taking it from a grain, from something that you can eat. Here you're taking like you have a lemon, which is like a solid food, and you're going to have now juice on the, on the solid food. But you can't like make lemon juice. You can't make
Right,
lemonade.
you can't squeeze it.
You can't squeeze it into a cup.
Is that
You
what-
could squeeze it onto food.
Oh, we can
Some
squeeze it
people also say you could squeeze, say you want to have it in your tea. So you can't squeeze it into a glass of tea, but you could squeeze it onto sugar. That's like now you have like, before you had like a solid, now you again have a solid. And then I could stir that into the tea. And that would be,
you
okay.
could do it on a chicken or that's solid.
you could do it on chicken, as
But
long
that's
as you
not
don't
solid?
have like actual juice that you could see has been
Oh, I
separated
see.
out.
Is that why you can't open packages also on Shabbat, or is that something different? Like, I know that you're not supposed to like open, I don't know, like packages. That's what I was told.
Open packages, well, I think that usually is allowed to open packages, if it's for eating, if it's for food.
Right, for food.
For food you could.
Salad is fine.
But
A
then,
a
like,
lot of these things
Just like a
are
cup or something
gonna
like
be
that.
sometimes allowed, sometimes not.
right, because I'm thinking
If
of
it's
like,
like right before you're eating, if it's the way of eating, then you're allowed to do it.
right, but I'm just,
But like to open up an envelope, that could be a problem.
right, that's what I'm, also like,
Because you're sort of like, why it's not allowed, I guess it's, I don't think it's tearing
Yeah.
maybe, like
it's probably tearing.
Like, can we
What
can
are
we
you
eat
talking
the
about?
noodles
Opening a
cups and all?
Could you do what?
Noodles cup, like a noodles with a cup on the cover.
Instant noodles.
They could take the cover off. You could. For eating, you're allowed to open things up
Open,
for
then we
eating.
can pour hot water then.
Yeah, because
Like-
they're
To
cooked
pour hot
already.
water, that's gonna be a
It's like a
problem.
cook.
Really? 'Cause
Cooking
they're-
it. To
they're
pour hot
cooked.
water on something.
No, but the instant noodles, they're already cooked. So normally
Right,
you're
but-
just like softening them. You're not really cooking them.
Right, but you can't pour from like hot water on it because we say even if something has already been cooked, like you're not even supposed to pour it on instant coffee,
Also,
Really?
not
you're
on.
You're turning it from a solid to like a soft.
You're-
Form.
I will see, like Midreshet Hashem, when we're going to spend more time talking about cooking. So don't ask me questions about that. Okay, I have like 3 or 4 classes about cooking because it's one of the things that are very frequent, like on Shabbos, that we're going to have this question come up. You want to make tea, you want to make coffee, you
Right.
want to use a hot plate, warm food up. It's something which we need to know it very well because it's very, very frequent on Shabbos that we're confronted with this malacha. So
threshing-
I'm just giving like an overview here of the different kinds of malacha. And
Threshing only applies to something that like if you're removing a solid from a solid, or
no, like we see the main Av, that we call the Av malacha, the father malacha, where it comes from, is to take like the
Right.
grain out of its covering.
So could you? I don't know. Like
It's
if
like
there's-
taking something that you can't eat and taking some food out of its thing that you can't eat. You're like making it out something that theoretically you could eat it. You can't really eat the grain so when they're raw, but it's getting it closer.
But it's
You're
only
changing its form.
no, because I'm thinking of like a bunch of random things that could be like if you have glasses in a glasses case and you like remove it from its covering, is that considered
Right?
touching?
No, because that's not. See, these are it's like the things that we need, like the rabbis, to help us here,
Right.
because in our mind we can imagine all kind of similarities that would seem like, well, this is maybe a Toledah, this is maybe derived from this work, but then you see, well, really, it could be allowed. So
Like for example, like I want some snacks on Shabbat day. So can I open the cover for the snacks?
open what?
The snacks cover and all
The snack cover. I
It's
think
food.
you could.
Okay.
If it's something like a lot, like some things could be, even though maybe it is connected to one of these malachot, but when it's for the purpose of eating, some of the things thereby become permitted. Not everything.
Also, good
Some
for
things
minutes.
become permitted. So,
If someone's
and that's something that many people are very intuitive and think they could figure out all, but it's we have to study it. There's like many details, many books explaining what exactly is derived from it and is prohibited, what exactly maybe it's a little bit similar and it's not exactly from the Torah, but the rabbis prohibit it. Other things that the rabbi said, no, it's not really so similar. You could do it. Yes. Okay, we'll wait.
Can we take out the garbage and throw it? Garbage, plastic bag, things and all.
All right, that's going to be connected with another kind of malacha, which is a fence, and that is moving things around, which we don't need for Shabbos. Muksa. is
You're
what
allowed
it's
to
called.
take out the trash.
So muksa, there's one of the kinds of muksa is something that is unpleasant, that we don't want it here. It's something like changing a baby's diaper, or taking out garbage, or a dead insect or something. Things that we don't need them for themselves. We just don't want them to be here. That could be that is permitted. Okay, maybe just look at maybe some of the other categories here. Making material curtains. So here you see like shearing wool, cleaning, combing, dyeing, spinning. These are all things that go into making the curtains, right? How many different curtains did the Mishkan have? How many coverings on top of it? Had, believe it had 3 coverings, right? It had like the oil itself, made from just goat's hair. Then it had on top of that curtains made from wool. And then it had a cover on top of that made from animal skins, right? So that was like the Mishkan. And so here you see like a lot of things that go into preparing those things. Everything to do with wool and threads, and also with tying a knot, sewing, tearing. Next came the leather curtains. Here you have all kinds of things that has to do with leather, right? Trapping, slaughtering, skinning, tanning the hide, smoothing, making lines on them, cutting them, right? Cutting them. Somebody mentioned that, right? You want to cut those things out to be a specific size. So anytime you do that, like if it's like maybe like we said, opening up an envelope, maybe you have to tear it in a way that's not going to make like such a fine line. Like we mentioned, cutting toilet paper, right? You're cutting it on that line to make exact nice edge on it. If somebody cuts in the middle, that would be like something different. It's not cutting it like exactly to make it like perfect line. That could be something that's more like either I'm not sure, either a toledah, like a derivative from it. Yeah, probably that. If you cut it on the line exactly, that would be like a toledah. It's not leather. not using the same material as was in the temple. So, but if you do it like not on that, it could be like a gezerah. Don't cut paper because you might then come to cut leather. But as we mentioned, if a person doesn't have tissues that are pre-cut, and he's in that situation where he needs like the paper for the toilet, so that he could would be allowed to maybe cut it with some kind of doing it in a different way instead of just cutting it with his hands. He could maybe use his elbows, to break the paper, doing it in a different way. We're more lenient about that in that case because it's what's called kavod abriot. It's like a dignity of a person that he needs to, for hygiene, he needs to clean himself. So there could be, so that would be like an example of something which is not exactly like the Torah prohibition. He does it in a different way, and then it becomes permitted. Next, we have a category, the beams of the Mishkan, right? They had gigantic beams, right? How big was one of those, the beams that constructed like the Mishkan? Each one was like 1 amma wide, this wide.
3 feet.
And what?
An amma is like 3 feet.
No, amma is like half a meter from the tip of your finger. This in Hebrew is called the amma, because that's how you measure it, from the tip of the finger to the elbow. In English, it's called the cubit.
Right. I don't know what that is.
So that's how wide it was, and I think it was also 1 amma thick as well.
What they're building.
And how tall was it? It was 10 amma tall, like 5 meters
Oh,
tall.
wow.
I don't know how they could carry those. Take like 4 telephone poles, try to carry that. But here, the work is, okay, besides cutting them, we already talked about that by the wheat, right, to cut them down, that would be a prohibition. But also writing and erasing, right? What does that have to do with these beams? So apparently, they were fitted together very exactly, right? They had to be placed in these silver sockets, right? Silver sockets on the base. And also at the top, it had rings that would hold them together. And anybody that's tried to build a sukkah, for example, it doesn't always fit together, except one way it fits together. It has to be, so that's why they had to write on one next to the other. They would write number 1. Another side, they write 2 and 2, or usually they'd probably use aleph, aleph, beit, beit, right? So they would write a specific letter on each one in order to enable them to be fitted back together in the way that would fit together easily, quickly. So, of course, as soon as the clouds started to ascend, then they knew that they had to travel.
How do they travel with those beams?
So they had, for the coverings of the Mishkan, they had 2 wagons. For the beams, they had 4 wagons. And for the all of the and how did they carry the table and the altar? What?
Right. No, I'm just thinking.
That was handled by the Levium themselves without the wagons.
They must have been so
carry
strong.
those they had to carry.
That's crazy.
They must have been very strong. And it even says that Moshe, the first time Moshe assembled it single-handedly himself, right?
Wow.
But it does say that Hashem helped him. They said, well, you just make believe you're doing it, I'll help you. And erasing as well, right? Sometimes they had to erase those letters.
Isn't there a lot of Torah on that idea that Hashem made him do it, but he wasn't actually doing it, but Hashem just told him to do it, so that then he feels he's basically it's right, it's a muscle for our life, how we're supposed to do things, and
We're supposed to try to do it and hope
and
that
Hashem's
Hashem will
really
help us.
just doing it. He's just, that's how people explain
Right.
free will. It's
Right,
you do the thing,
like,
and Hashem's Okay. Cute. I
Like
do.
the Mishle in Proverbs, it says, Marchei Lashon Belev Adam. Like like where the person will plan to say is really like in the person's free will what he's going to consider, what he's going to prepare to say, but what comes out of the speech that comes out of his mouth, that's from Hashem. What he actually says is going to be like from Hashem, right? The person can prepare and think and plan what he's going to say, but what he actually says is really like that comes from Hashem. So we have to try as much as we can to but what actually we have to make our best effort, like raising children also, right? We're going to try make our children keep Torah, have a Jewish home, but what actually happens in the end is not up to us. It's up to Hashem. We cannot feel like guilty and terrible how our children come out. We're just doing the best we can to raise them in the best way. How the actual path that they take, that's up to Hashem. It's not up to us. And we have putting up, taking down the Mishkan. Okay, building. Anytime when you begin to erect a structure. Here there could also be, for example, digging a hole. What is digging a hole? So if your intention is you're digging a hole because you want to plant a tree, so that has to do with the work of sowing, the very first one. We saw planting seeds. A toledah of that, like something that's also from the Torah, would be to plant a tree, right? Whether you plant a seed or you take a sapling and you plant that in the ground, it's both called sowing a seed. But if your intention is to build a building, so then it's called building. You're digging a hole in order to make a post in there. That would be building. So it's could be the same action, but your intention could change what the kind of malacha it is. And similarly, like if you're taking down things, if you say you have like you put like a window like into the house, that could be like building. You're building a house. Our windows, like they're made to slide open and close. They're made that way. It's not really every time you open and close the window, you're not building because it's made to do that. Right?
Is that why some people say Legos are not mixed on Shabbat?
Lego.
Right.
Okay, so Lego, what about like you're putting things together to make like a certain structure?
Right.
So if it's something that you're making in order for temporarily take it apart, then it could be allowed, especially for children
Right.
to play. For adults, some of these things are not allowed.
Right.
They say do not let children play marbles. Why? Because marbles usually have you have to make like a little hole in the ground, and in order to make the marble go into that hole, at least that's how sometimes used to play it.
Now we have like the preset marble thing. Like,
Okay, if it's preset, maybe it'd be allowed, but it used to be that they're like doing it on the dirt and making it go into a place, so you're digging a hole, it used to be also to sweep your house. Didn't always have like a paved floor. What do they call it? In Hebrew it means ritzpah, which means like something that's ritzuf, something that covers the floor. They used to have just a dirt floor. So if you have a dirt floor, you're not allowed to sweep. For a long time, some people had stones on their floor, tiles. Some people didn't have anything, just dirt on their floor, and it was prohibited to sweep your floor. Because what is your intention? Your intention is to smooth it out. You're trying to smooth out the holes, the unevenness in the floor. That's like building. You're like
That's
trying
not
to.
your intention.
You're like that. If your intention is to make a smooth dirt, like by sweeping, even though I'm just trying to clean it up, but if you have a dirt floor, you're not allowed to sweep it because it's going to make it smooth, and that's connected with building. Today, you're allowed to do it because almost nobody has a dirt floor. But if you would have that, you wouldn't be allowed to smooth it out or to make any kind of depression in there. Yes?
Would Jenga be okay then?
What?
Jenga?
Django. Oh, that's where you pull it out.
Yeah, and you kind of build the little tower, but then it's gonna fall, and then you build it, and then it's
Right. I think those things are like, are not a permanent thing. Another thing they ask about is like a puzzle, like you're putting them together to make a puzzle. I believe that if it's something that already has like a border around it, and it also, I forget exactly, but if you're like, there could be some puzzles that are like, could be like a permanent thing, then you're not allowed to do it. But if it's like something that you're gonna do, if you're taking it, you're putting it together in order to take it apart, it's temporary, it's not really, it's like more like a gezerah from the rabbis, it's a rabbinical prohibition, and children are allowed to do that. A lot of things like for adult, maybe wouldn't be allowed to make a puzzle on Shabbos, but a child could. I have to check it.
Right, some people do say that, but I know there's different opinions on it.
About making puzzles?
Making puzzles. I forgot what, like, the reasoning, well, I mean, the reasoning of, like, not letting it be permanent, but some people say no, because it's, like, I don't know, whatever. But I know if some people do puzzles, like, for artwork in their house, like, I have a lot of friends that they'll frame it, that I know that if that's your intention.
Okay, you're making a permanent thing, then
Right.
for sure it would not be allowed.
Right.
Okay, now let's see this. The Mishkan's final touches. So here, including the thing of making and extinguishing a fire, striking the final hammer blow, right? Like a lot of these golden and silver vessels that they created, in order to finish it, you have to like tap around it, maybe to smooth it out, right? To make sure it's smooth, right? There's some, and that's like the final hammer blow. Now it makes it complete. There's a lot of toledot. There's a lot of laws derived from that. For example, like tuning a guitar.
Yeah.
Right? This is the last thing you have to do now to make it an instrument that you could play on it, right? Even like now, like this is some vegetables or fruits that we want to eat. Wait, we can't eat them yet. We have to first take trumas and meiser. That's the final hammer blow that now makes it able to eat. That also would be like a
What? You can't do it on Shabbat?
truma and meiser. You cannot do it on Shabbat.
Whoa.
Taking challah. Oh, I forgot to take challah. Sorry, that's like going to make it now enable for you to eat. So you cannot do that on
So it's better not
Shabbat.
to
And this is something would be a gezerah, right? A rabbinical prohibition that you shouldn't come now to do something on an actual vessel, right? But there could be things like with vessels themselves that a person fixes something up to do something like that could complete that vessel in some way would be prohibited from the Torah. Yes.
Can you take challah after it's baked? Or is it only when it's dough that you can separate?
If it's not Shabbos, so and we really need to learn about challah because that's if we're going to learn about Shabbos, we need to learn about challah, so we will. But preferably, we try to take it from the stage of dough, and that is on the first side of the paper where it talked about what's it called here, where you're making dough, kneading. Kneading, that's one of the stages in making bread. And we're supposed to take it when we mix the flour and water, and just as we're kneading it, that's when we're supposed to take the challah. However, if you didn't do it then, it's not always possible to do it at that stage, then you have to do it after. You could do it after you bake it as well. But not on Shabbos.
But it's not a full, you can't use that challah to make, like, the bracha, no? Because it's not a full
You could.
loaf.
You can take it, take a piece off bread that you made, take the bracha, take a piece off
But
with a bracha, yes.
No, but I'm saying when you're eating on Shabbat, you need to have 2 full loaves, right? So
Right,
if you took a
right.
piece, you couldn't use.
Right, but I'm
that.
saying you can't
do it
even,
on Shabbat, anyway.
if you did it before Shabbos, You could do it. You could take a piece of bread, take a piece off a loaf
Yeah.
before Shabbos.
Right. I'm not really asking about the taking of the
And
law.
now
I'm saying
ask
you're
if you
allowed to
could use
it,
that
right,
for your. Okay, it's not real. You try
right.
since Shabbos. Like what do we say? Shabbat Shalom, right? The highest thing on Shabbat is that should be shalom, whole, right? Shalom doesn't only mean a greeting; it also means
Right,
peace.
peace.
It also means like something which is shalom, whole. It's complete.
Right,
It's perfect.
right,
So if you have like a piece taken off, it's not it's not is not like the preferred thing to use for Shabbos.
right.
If that's all you have, so
Right.
you need to eat bread. But if you have like two whole breads, that would be preferable.
Mm.
And finally, the last one here is carrying, which we did talk about previously, and this one is also the second one that's mentioned in the Torah explicitly, where after I think it was 3 days, Moshe said, "This is great. The people are really responding to our request to bring their materials, whatever they have, to make the Mishkan." We see, like, the women here are really bringing their jewelry, not like by the golden calf. They didn't want to bring for that, but for the Mishkan, they're bringing all their stuff, and the men are bringing their beams that they made. Right, Yaakov Avinu, he told them, take these saplings when you go to Egypt. We're going to need them later on, right? He foresaw. So now they're going out from Egypt. Bring these beams with you as you're going out. We need them. So they brought those with them, and now they were contributing all they had. Some people had to chelet, right? So they contribute. But after 3 days, Moshe said, stop, we have enough now. We don't need more. And the call went out, stop bringing it. And that also happened to coincide with Shabbos. They said, now it's Shabbos, don't carry anything more out from your private dwelling to the public domain. It's just, if you're already carrying it, so stop, just leave it there where you are, don't carry it more. So that's also something that's specifically said in the Torah. And, that's why in Balayan, we have like a eruv that goes all around. I don't know what's going to be now in New York City.
Yeah.
They get a lot of towns I know in New Jersey also, like they tried to make a law not allowed to make an eruv around the city. It's like disturbs the people. Yeah, they tried to make laws.
It's so ridiculous. It disturbs in what way?
But there's like the courts knocked that down. They said this is like only like against religion. You're not allowed to make laws like that.
Mm. Yeah, like what basis did they have for?
Okay, so we're going to be we're going to be going into some of these malachot, like we saw, like in the field work, these are like 11 steps to make bread. These are 11 steps to make bread, these field works, right? These all go together. And so we're going to be, since a lot of our work that we do on Shabbos is with eating, right? We want to make sure that we eat on Shabbos, since we have a mitzvah to enjoy Shabbos and making bread. We have to eat bread on Shabbos. So we're going to be focusing on some of these, like baking, which is not just baking, it's also cooking with water, selecting, like when we select out, like what was selecting, that's when you have, like, after you have all your grains already separated from the chaff, now you have some little pebbles in there. Because how did they used to do it? They used to like have an animal like go around stepping on the wheat, and that would break them apart. That would break the little pieces. That would break the covering from the grains. And now you take all your grains together with the coverings and you winnow them, put them on a big basket, and you wait for a windy day, and you toss them up toss them up, and the wind would blow aside all of the chaff and leave you with the grains. But also in those grains now would be some pebbles, because when the animal walked on it, there was like a lot of pebbles on the ground as well. So you have to select out those pebbles in order to give you just the grains. And so when you select out pebbles, that's called borer, right? So there's a lot of things we're going to learn about borer, grinding them small to make flour. That's the next step. That's where you take something that big pieces and you make small pieces, even cutting things small. That also would be connected with cutting things and grinding things. So these are all of the major categories of halacha, which have a lot of the halachot that are derived from them. Rabbinical prohibitions are offenses for them, and we'll try to devote some of the classes to understanding these prohibitions, but we also need to get into not only remember the Shomeret Shabbat, which are the negative commandments. You also have to learn the positive commandments, which are to declare it Shabbos, which is making Kiddush. I'd like to get into that next time. And also baking bread to prepare for Shabbos, which we'll learn about taking challah for that. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Oh, my only question is about the gezerot that were added. Like, who added this? Chazal, or who was the one?
Who makes the gezerot?
Right.
They are only really able to make gezerot to the time of this. We didn't really finish the class, so we're asking questions here.
Oh, we didn't.
Oh no, I just asked the question if anyone's
Yeah, we
interested
have
in
another 5 minutes.
Really?
8 minutes, 7 minutes for the class.
The class comes at 10. It's done already. Yeah.
You're kidding me?
Yeah, it's just until 10. Yeah.
Okay.
We're already 3 minutes over.
Up to now, it's been 10:10. So
I know.
Oh really? I think they
But
switch
they
around the
changed
subject,
it.
so we have a longer break between classes.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, well, that makes my job easier. In any case, only gezerot that you can have is by those rabbis at the time of the Sanhedrin or before that. Since only when you have like a Sanhedrin, which are like accepted by the Jewish people, these are rabbis, they are the ones that are allowed to make the gezerot. Since then, nobody can do that.
But
Nobody has the power today to make a gezerah. Only up to that time when we had the Sanhedrin.
which is really interesting because I feel like because obviously we have a lot of modern technology and things
Right.
like life is very different than the way it used to be. I wonder if there would. I mean, I'm sure there would be more prohibitions that are set up, and also maybe some things would be taken away because we just live a
Right,
different
even
kind
to
of
take
lifestyle.
away prohibitions
Right.
is not so easy.
Right.
And it's, the basic principle is if you have a Beit Din that's larger and has more authority, then you can take it away. Otherwise, no. However, that's not 100% true. If it's like for a mitzvah, then people do let you take it. Then they do let you
Right.
like clapping for songs like on Shabbos.
You're not allowed to clap on Shabbos.
That's like you're making
You put a blanket
you're making music on Shabbos. You're not allowed
So
to.
can you
Yeah.
sing on
Does
Shabbos?
You could sing. Although that's
Where you talk
also
to,
a
like,
question
you're not
because
supposed to make the toy make
since
noise on
the
Shabbos.
Mikdash was
There shouldn't
destroyed,
be
you're not
any-
supposed to have song
Right,
and
so then they go,
rejoicing.
oh,
But for
okay.
mitzvah,
Ever? Or just
no, for
Shabbat?
mitzvahs you could. Shabbos songs for mitzvah you could.
Since we're
Well,
not supposed to
today
sing, right?
we allow it because people are too depressed, and that's
Yeah.
like a sickness.
Well,
That's a sickness, not and music is our
antidote.
medicine for depression. So
That's
that's
so
why they
fancy.
let that. But any kind of rhythmic clapping, like drumming and clapping, is prohibited because you might come to tune instruments. You might come to makabapatish. You might come to tune an instrument to make instruments.
Right. That's,
But many people allow you to do it if it's like for like a mitzvah, like when you're like rejoicing, like you're playing music for a mitzvah, like on Shabbos, some people pound on the bima.
Right.
So they let them. Many
it's considered
rabbis
like,
say
I
it's
feel like
allowed.
anything on Shabbat, that if you're playing with your friends or whatever, it's considered onik Shabbat, so that could be a mitzvah in and of itself, no? Or
Well,
like let's say your kids
I
are
don't know.
playing and they're like, there's a game where they have to clap or something, and it's
Right.
them enjoying Shabbat. So
Right. Well, it has to be like rhythmic first of all.
no.
And okay, children, it's like usually we're Mechael by them, even though like we're teaching them. But that's one of the things that they talk about this. Can we, today people are not really, people cannot make instruments today, although I don't understand, think they could tune instruments, so that seems to me like it still would be applicable, but people discuss whether it's still the prohibition of making instruments. That's something that's not so common today. Maybe it should be abolished, that clapping and making
Right.
clapping rhythmically on Shabbos. But people say that even though we don't have like we don't have a Sanhedrin today, but still it's like doesn't apply anymore. And there's other prohibitions like that. Like they used to be prohibited to eat olive oil that was produced by a non-Jewish person, just like you can't drink milk from a non-Jewish person. You
Well,
can't
yeah.
get milk from a non-Jewish person. The same thing they made by olive oil. Maybe he's going to mix in other kinds of fat in there, but that was not something that was something that was not
Like
did not carry through. It was like
Right.
early on, it was a gezerah that
Mm,
was nullified.
that's so fascinating. Wow. Yeah, I don't know. It's like as much as I love the Torah and halachot and things like that, like I don't know.